How's it going, everyone? My name is Mulder and welcome to GameChron, your #1 stop for tips and tricks on your favorite video games. Today we continue our journey in the galaxy for Star Wars Squadrons Gameplay Tips and Tricks Part 2. In this video we'll cover the TIE Bomber and the Y-Wing and how best to use them on the battlefield, along with the fact of what ship components I'm currently using for both these starfighters. All that and more straight ahead. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for a lot more. We have 4 more starfighters to cover in this series, but for right now, sit back, relax, and enjoy our Star Wars Squadrons tips video.
Come on, back to the Temperance.
We can meet the new boss, and anyone else he's bringing along.
Let's start things off with the TIE SA Bomber. Now right now for my TIE Bomber, I have a max hull of 3,500, which is high. Max speed is at 126.5, which is also high. Max acceleration, which is at 126.8, which is low. Maneuverability is at 56.3, which is also low. My primary weapon is the guided rotary cannon. Left auxiliary is the Goliath missile. Right auxiliary is the Seeker Mine. Countermeasures is the chaff particles. Hull is reinforced hull, and finally engine is unstable engine. Now this TIE Bomber build makes you the brute in the air right now. The guided rotary cannon, I kid you not, is a minigun that after it charges for just a few seconds, can unleash a barrage of blasts on a single enemy target, killing them and wiping them out rather quickly. One blast from this rotary cannon does very little damage, but a rapid fire succession of these things can wipe out a target quickly. And just in case an enemy gets away from you, your Goliath's missile can actually hunt them down for you. The Goliath missile can track enemies a lot longer than standard missiles. But really the great thing about this missile that even if it misses its target, the explosion from the Goliath missile can still do damage to enemy aircraft in the area. So even if you miss, you're still doing some damage to the enemy aircraft. But my next favorite weapon is of course the Seeker Mine. Now the Seeker Mine is best used in 2 different scenarios. The first is that if you're being tailed by an enemy fighter, simply lead them into a closed-in area and drop your Seeker Mine behind you. The Seeker Mine, once locked onto an enemy target, can do devastating damage to that target, even if it still has shields and half its health. Another great way to drop in the Seeker Mine is in the middle of a dogfight. If you see both your allies and enemies fighting in a particular area, fly through the chaos and drop your Seeker Mine in the middle of it. The Seeker Mine will lock onto the closest enemy, doing devastating damage and destroying that enemy while also damaging its allies in the area. And of course, if the Seeker Mine fails to destroy your target, but they're still limping along trying to shoot you down, your chaff particles can help deflect any incoming missiles. Reinforced hull is definitely recommended for the TIE Bomber because you have no shields. This gives you a ton of health to live off of while you're in the midst of combat. And lastly is the unstable engine, which gives you quick boost of speeds when you really need it. But the other great thing too about the unstable engine is that the moment your fighter is destroyed, you actually cause a massive explosion that at a few times can actually destroy the enemy fighter that's been tailing you. You can build your TIE Bomber in any fashion that you wish, but I can tell you right now that this particular build that both myself and my friends have been running, we've been able to get between 7 to 10 kills with low deaths every single match, along with winning those matches. This build so far makes the TIE Bomber a monster in the sky.
Taking fire! Blasted! They're locked on!
Next up is the BTL A4 Y-Wing. Now I have some interesting ship components attached to the Y-Wing, however it hasn't really affected my stats on the ship too much. The only thing that's changed is that my max hull is at 1080, which is a little low, but everything else from the max shields, max speed, max acceleration, and maneuverability is still standard. My primary weapon is the guided rotary cannon, left auxiliary is the Goliath missile, right auxiliary is the multi-lock missile, countermeasures is particle burst, hull is damper hull, shields are ray shield, and the engine is the jet engine. Now the rotary cannon for the Y-Wing shoots a little bit slower than that on the TIE Bomber. It can still do some devastating damage, just bear in mind, you do have to stay locked onto your target for a little bit longer. But the other great thing too about my Y-Wing is that I have this thing decked out as just a monster powerhouse in terms of just sheer damage. The Goliath missile, as before, can lock onto an enemy target doing devastating damage if hitting or at least exploding near that target. But the other great thing too is the multi-lock missile. The multi-lock missile can still hold its own as your starting right auxiliary unit. This thing can lock onto 4 targets at once, which is great, especially if you're hunting down a target after doing severe damage with your guided rotary cannon. Use the Goliath missile to finish off targets while using the multi-lock missile to finish off running away targets from you once you've done some damage to them with your rotary cannon. It's a great 1-2 punch combo. Countermeasures are of course the particle burst, which allows enemy missiles and landmines to get away from you and destroy in the particles then hitting your ship. For your damper hull, it does take a little bit of a hit on your health, but what's great about this is that enemies take a lot longer to lock onto you. This allows the Y-Wing to avoid enemy pursuers while also getting away when it's taking heavy damage. Having enemies take a lot longer to lock onto you definitely comes in as a lifesaver. But what also is a great lifesaver is of course your ray shield, which like I explained in my last video, the ray shield keeps you shielded from enemy lasers a lot longer, though you do take more damage from enemy missiles. But as always, the particle burst will come in to save you. And lastly is the jet engine. Now the jet engine does take a while for the charge rate, however the charge boost that allows you to fly off really fast is great. The Y-Wing is a bit of a slug aircraft, so make sure you have this boost enabled, or at least something that gives you more max speed and acceleration. I have to honestly say that out of my two bomber builds, I really love the TIE bomber, followed closely by the Y-Wing. Because the Y-Wing has a ray shield, you can stay on the battlefield and do devastating hits a lot longer than that of the TIE bomber, especially when you're outnumbered by enemy starfighters. However, the guided rotary cannon on the TIE bomber shoots a lot faster and hits a lot harder than that on the Y-Wing. So really type of experiment and build as to which way you'd like to build both these aircraft, but honestly these two builds for the TIE bombers will get you a ton of kills. As I said, my friends and I have been getting between 7 to 10 kills per match with low deaths thanks to these builds. But if there's a particular build that you like for the TIE bomber or Y-Wing or the X-Wing or TIE fighter that I covered in my last video, definitely drop a comment below. I'm definitely interested in seeing what ship components all of you are running for your starfighters too. But be sure to stick around because I'll be covering the TIE Reaper and the U-Wing in my Star Wars Squadrons tips video part 3. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for a lot more. We're well on our way in Star Wars Squadrons, but we'll also be covering Watch Dogs Legions when that comes out, Cyberpunk 27, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and Far Cry 6. So definitely subscribe to stay tuned. Can't wait to jump into those games with you, but until then, I'm Mulder, and I'll see you next time in the GameChron.